Kendrick Lamar just performed at the 2025 Super Bowl. It was America's most watched event since the moon landing. This was highly anticipated, especially after last year's beef with Drake. The thing is, it was a lot different than some people were expecting. He could have come out and played All Right, Money Trees, or Mad City, or Loyalty, but he didn't do that. He didn't play the hits. I mean, he played some hits, but most of the set list was from his most recent album, GNX. And here's the thing, GNX is a lot different than a typical Kendrick album. I've done multiple videos breaking down some of his albums. My last one on Damn is 45 minutes long because the concept behind it is so crazy, but GNX is not a typical Kendrick album. It's a great album, or great mixtape, you could make that argument, but it just doesn't have the same high concept as a typical Kendrick album. But after watching the Super Bowl performance, I think I understand GNX better. I understand how this album ties into the performance and where he'll be going from here. So this is gonna be a hybrid of talking about GNX and also the Super Bowl performance, because I think these are two halves of the same idea. GNX was the setup and the Super Bowl is the punchline. Okay, first off, Kendrick doesn't do anything accidentally. The man won a Pulitzer. There are layers and layers of meaning in everything he does. Everything is something. That's literally what the Soul Train Scramble Board says in the Squabble Up music video in Latin. That being said, like all great art, Kendrick's meaning can be taken multiple ways. Sometimes they're meant to mean more than one thing. Sometimes it could go either way, and different people may see it differently. This is what good art does. So, disclaimer, there's gonna be layers I miss or don't cover. Feel free to jump in the comments. I'd love to hear how you see this as well. In order to understand the Super Bowl and GNX, we need to touch briefly on the historic battle with Drake that took place in 2024. This will be quick. This was an incredible rap battle, Kendrick and Drake dropping diss tracks back and forth. Here's a quick timeline. March 22nd, 2024, Kendrick has a verse on Like That with Future and Metro Boomin. Kendrick disses Drake and J. Cole, saying, "It's not the big three, it's just Big Me." April 13th, Drake responds in the song Push Ups. April 19th, Drake responds again in tailor-made freestyle using an AI-generated voice of Tupac, a hero of Kendrick's, See to Pimp a Butterfly, prompting a cease and desist from the Shakur estate. April 30th, Kendrick replies with Euphoria and hits back hard. 4 days later, Kendrick strikes again with 616 in LA. Same day, Drake responds with Family Matters. Hours later, Kendrick releases Meet the Grams, and then again, less than 24 hours later, Kendrick releases Not Like Us, which, among other things, alleges Drake's inappropriate relations with minors. Drake responded with another song, but at that point, the battle was over, and it was pretty much universally agreed that Kendrick won. I mean, not just won, but destroyed Drake. And while this battle was about two rappers going head-to-head, it was also a battle for the soul of hip-hop. There have been many think pieces written about the decline of hip-hop, how it was all mumble rap or all singing, and Drake, who dominated the genre of hip-hop for a very long time, represented the commercial side, while Kendrick represented the art side. And that's art with a capital A. Drake is also from Toronto, Canada, and is mixed race, while Kendrick is from Compton, California, one of the epicenters of hip-hop. That was all part of the importance of Not Like Us. Kendrick is unifying the hip-hop community. It wasn't just Kendrick versus Drake anymore. It was, hey, hip-hop fans, hip-hop culture, this dude, he's not like us. Kendrick was turning away from Drake and towards the culture at large and getting them to also hate Drake. He's not what hip-hop even is. He sings, his whole thing is fake, he has ghostwriters, he's not hip-hop. Okay, so Kendrick won this battle. Not Like Us was a massive hit. The song was everywhere, not to mention the time that Kendrick performed it over and over at the Juneteenth pop-out. September 8th, Kendrick announces he'll be playing the Super Bowl halftime show. There are subtle digs in the video, like how there's no round twos, alluding to Drake wanting to go another round of the battle. Then on November 22nd, Kendrick drops a surprise album, GNX. In many ways, this is the icing on the beef cake. Gross, but you know what I mean. There's a few more Drake disses, including one song that even sounds kind of like Not Like Us, and do we think that's an accident? Knowing Kendrick? We're gonna talk about that song in just a moment, but when this album dropped, everyone was excited, but also a little confused, and in some cases, underwhelmed. Only because Kendrick has spent multiple albums priming us for these giant concepts, albums that feel like movies. And GNX doesn't have a big concept to it. It's a lot of good songs and a lot of good rapping and just a lot of good old-fashioned braggadocio. GNX was a surprise not only to fans, but to some of the people who worked on it. Kendrick released an announcement video on Instagram, and then like 10 minutes later released the full album. The whole album came together much quicker, and on the opening track, Whacked Out Murals, he references the fact that he'll be playing the Super Bowl, which was announced just 2 months prior. There is one hint to where Kendrick is trying to go with GNX. In the first track, Whacked Out Murals, he says, "Fuck a double entendre, I want y'all to feel this," seemingly saying, I'm not gonna go high concept with this one, I just want you to feel what I'm feeling right now. The next track, Squabble Up, was an instant hit.
Reincarnated, I was stargazing, life goes on, I need all my babies.
And this music video is full of references to LA, to hip-hop culture. The whole thing looks like the music video to The Next Movement by The Roots. And Kendrick fans took a look at some of these things and took it to mean that more was coming. There had to be a second album about to drop. There was a theory that the Compton Christmas Parade, which is referenced in the video, it was also like a day that was connected with the Buick GNX. That's the car that's on the album cover. Maybe that would be the day that Kendrick would drop the GNX Deluxe album with more songs. But that day came and went. Okay, so then it's gonna be the Super Bowl. Kendrick's gonna drop part 2 at the Super Bowl. That's it. There was just this feeling of like, this can't be it. It's Kendrick. There's gotta be a bigger concept here. And you know, maybe time will prove me wrong and he'll drop part 2. But I think the Super Bowl performance was the big thing that GNX set up. But let's keep going through the album briefly. Third track on GNX is Luther featuring SZA. Great song. Luther Vandross sample, great sample. Also, we just got the Luther doc, very timely.
If this world were mine.
Hey, Roman numeral 7.
Next track, Man at the Garden. This one is basically One Mic by Nas. Same beat, same chords, same vibe.
Yo, all I need is one mic, one beat, one stage, one.
Flying private, what you eat for lunch, I deserve.
I want to talk about Reincarnated next. Everything about this song screams Tupac. I mean, the beat is literally from a Tupac song.
My life in exchange for yours, born hated as a thug, house full of babies.
But the way Kendrick is rapping, he sounds like he's channeling Tupac.
I got this fire burning in me from within. Concentrated thoughts on who I used to be. I'm shedding skin.
Imagine taking inspiration and channeling an iconic rapper instead of making an AI clone to use in a diss track. Crazy idea. All throughout this album, there's a theme of reincarnation. It's mentioned several times. There's other musical and lyrical references throughout. Kendrick quotes Biggie on TV Off, which we're coming back to. The concept of Gloria is it sounds like he's talking about a woman and talking about their history together until you realize on the last line, he's talking about his pen or his ability to write. This is the same device used by Common for the classic song I Used to Love Her, where it turns out the woman he's talking about is actually hip-hop. The beat to the song GNX sounds either like a warped Timbaland beat or kind of like Lucifer by Jay-Z. Here's GNX, here's Lucifer. Focus on the piano. So is this a typical Kendrick album? No. That's why a lot of people called it a mixtape. It was made quicker than a typical Kendrick album. It's not a big concept. It's just good songs and good rhyming. But I couldn't shake the feeling that all of these references to other hip-hop songs and artists was intentional. It felt like he was paying tribute to the rappers and producers that inspired him and doubling down on showing, nah, this is what hip-hop is. Like he's giving us something new, but it's got a lot of hip-hop history baked into it. And what's Drake doing during this time? Well, days after the release of GNX, Drake announced that he is suing. He's suing UMG, which is the label both he and Kendrick are under, specifically over the song Not Like Us, claiming defamation and harassment, claiming that UMG artificially inflated the streaming numbers for Not Like Us. So, just so we're clear, Kendrick, the guy who represented the art side of the battle, goes on to book the Super Bowl, release a new album full of references to other songs and hip-hop culture in general, and Drake, the commercial side of this battle, lost and decided to sue. I mean, you can do that, it's just going to further prove Kendrick's point. So leading up to the Super Bowl, there was all this anticipation. Is Kendrick going to play Not Like Us? There's a lawsuit, I don't know. I mean, of course he was gonna play it, but what he did was better than just play it, not only for the tease beforehand, but also the song he went into right after. All right, let's finally talk about the Super Bowl. Oh, wait, just a week before the Super Bowl at the 2025 Grammys, Kendrick was nominated for 5 Grammys, and he won 5 Grammys, all for Not Like Us. Oh, he was also wearing a denim jacket with jeans, which is also known as a Canadian tuxedo. Then the very next Sunday is the Super Bowl. Okay, here we go. Kendrick could have come out and played the hits, but he didn't. Like I said, GNX was the setup and the Super Bowl is the punchline. We're going to go through this as a general overview. I'm sure this performance will be talked about for years to come. But there's a few specific things I noticed. The performance starts with Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam, welcoming us to the great American game. Uncle Sam, of course, was referenced on To Pimp a Butterfly. The theme of this performance is the game. The stage is one giant street with a few stages in the shape of a square, an X, a triangle, and a circle, just like a PlayStation controller. Kendrick is crouched on a GNX. This one was completely gutted so the dancers could pour out of it, but it's connected to an area below the stage. So cool. And what song does Kendrick start his Super Bowl performance with? An unreleased track. Specifically, the song that was in the video teaser for GNX that dropped just before the album, because that song is not actually on GNX. Kendrick says, "The revolution about to be televised, you picked the right time, but the wrong guy." This, of course, is originally a Gil Scott-Heron song or poem. Wrong guy could mean him or the fact that the country just elected Trump for a second term. The next song is Squabble Up. This is a recent hit. Great. Uncle Sam interrupts and says that this is too reckless and too ghetto, saying, "Do you really know how to play the game?" The next song is Humble. Okay, great. Big hit for Kendrick. A lot of people know this song, but there's another layer. The American flag. Now, you could take this many different ways. Like, sure, it could be a dig at Drake since he's Canadian. It could also be a powerful statement since this flag is made up entirely of black men, and Kendrick is in the middle of this divided flag, hinting at the division within the country and saying that this country was built on the backs of black people. There's also the fact that he says, "Sit down, be humble," and then the flag descends down the steps, almost like he's telling America to be humble. Exploring these intricacies is something Kendrick has done extensively on previous albums. Also, keep in mind, he's performing this knowing that President Donald Trump is in the crowd. The next song is DNA, another big hit from the album Damn, but then we hear the familiar horns from, is that? Yes, it's Euphoria, one of the songs from the battle with Drake. This is followed by Man at the Garden, as well as Peekaboo, which are both off of GNX. Then we get this tease. Kendrick has an exchange with a group of ladies, saying he wants to perform everybody's favorite song, playing a clip of Not Like Us, and then saying, "But you know they love to sue." Instead, he slows it down and we get Luther, which is also from GNX. SZA shows up and sings with Kendrick on this song, as well as the next one, All the Stars, which was from the soundtrack to Marvel's Black Panther. And you know, Uncle Sam likes this one, saying this is what America wants, nice and calm. And then Kendrick does it. He plays Not Like Us. He stares right into the camera as he says, "Say, Drake." The entire stadium screams A minor. Serena Williams is crip walking. She was criticized for doing this at Wimbledon, plus she dated Drake. Layers! This is insane! And then we get to the final song of the Super Bowl, the one I think connects everything together. TV Off. This song was produced by Mustard, same as Not Like Us, and they sound similar. Mustard says this is intentional, at least for the first half of the beat. It switches up halfway through, right on the part where Kendrick screams "Mustard," which is where he started on the Super Bowl performance. Music-wise, it still sounds similar to Not Like Us, similar tempo and feel, very orchestral sounding. Kind of feels like Not Like Us 2.0. Intentionally. But then lyrically, Kendrick is simultaneously wrapping up his Super Bowl performance, the battle with Drake, and telling us where he's going next and what we should do in the meantime. He starts with the lyric, "Turn his TV off," probably referring to Drake. I mean, this could be taken multiple ways, but including turn off his literal TV because he can't handle Kendrick doing the Super Bowl right now. Kendrick comes in on the third verse.
Ain't no other king in this rap thing, like siblings. Nothing but my children. One shot, they disappearing.
This is a direct quote from the Notorious B.I.G. song Kick in the Door, which has also been quoted by other rappers like Jay-Z and Ice Cube.
I'm in a city where the flag be getting thrown like it was past interference.
He's referring to Compton or New Orleans with the Super Bowl that he's currently at, or both. He continues saying that he's made it out and made it to the top, bragging that he's at the highest level, and then he wraps it up by saying,
They mouth you full of deceit. Let these cowards tell it. Walk in New Orleans with the etiquette of LA yelling,
LA, Los Angeles, where Kendrick is from, but also LA is the abbreviation for Louisiana, where the Super Bowl is currently taking place. And this song ends with a variation of the hook, "Turn this TV off." Kendrick smiles at the camera, makes a motion like he's clicking a remote, and then the words in the crowd read, "Game over." The TV Off was written specifically for the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't have a quote for that, but it had to be. There's references to being at the Super Bowl, telling the viewers to turn this TV off because the performance is over, but also as a sign to wake up and don't just be a passive consumer. There's a lot there, but TV Off also puts the final nails in the coffin from the battle, segueing directly from Not Like Us straight into Super Bowl references that he's currently performing at. The TV Off feels like an addendum to Not Like Us. So I know some people were confused or disappointed by the set list, but I think the Super Bowl is the punchline to GNX's setup. Kendrick isn't interested in moving backwards. Yes, he played a few hits, but he also played 5 songs from an album that's been out for only 2.5 months. If the Drake-Kendrick battle was all about fighting for the soul of hip-hop, the album GNX is all about reasserting what hip-hop is, showing its history, building on it, delivering something new and fresh in the process. The Super Bowl performance, then, is all of this made real on the biggest stage in the world. It was everything. It was the final blow to Drake after the battle and lawsuit, saying, "You got your ass handed to you, man." It was commentary on the game that he has to play as a black man, as a rapper, as a Super Bowl performer, and as an American. With so many songs from GNX, it was paying respect to the history of hip-hop and showing us, now that Kendrick has essentially reclaimed hip-hop, what it can be. It can be emotional. It can be high concept. It can be great beats and skilled rhyming. It can be political. It can be a hit song. It can be ruthlessly taking down your opponent while thousands of people scream A minor. And it can be the music of a revolution. Kendrick won the battle and is now taking on the task of reincarnating hip-hop. And in order to do all of that live at the Super Bowl, he first had to release GNX, the setup before the punchline. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and hit the like button down there. I mentioned my breakdown of Kendrick's Damn. I'm going to link that right here, but buckle up, there is a lot in that one. That's actually the longest video I've made yet. So I guess I'm saying don't turn your TV off yet, go check this out, and then, whatever. Dumb joke, you get it.